Spending per person among federal agencies has increased almost 100-fold since 1916. Part of that is due to the growth of the vast administrative state, which feeds the waste, fraud, and abuse that we actually report on every single week. Now, luckily, Senator Joni Ernst is proposing a bill that will address the major gaps in transparency of this oversized federal workforce. Joining us now to discuss, of course, is Rachel O'Brien, Deputy Public Policy Editor for OpenTheBooks.com. Thanks for joining us once again. And kind of break this all down for us. What is the federal government spending per person, and what is it actually attributed to?
Yeah, Angela, so in fiscal year 2025, the government spent $20,474 per person living in this country, and that's a record of more than $7 trillion. And this is not due to inflation. When we talk about it increasing 100-fold since 1916, this is real growth in federal spending per capita since 1916. It's adjusted for today's dollars. A lot of that increased spending comes from Social Security, which has more beneficiaries than even the year before, and increased payments to cost of living adjustments. And then Medicare and Medicaid, they've also increased their healthcare costs. If you look back to 2019, just a few years ago before the pandemic, spending was just over $17,000 per person. Of course, that figure exploded to almost $25,000 in 2020, 2021 due to the pandemic, and it has been above $20,000 ever since.
And we all want to know how much of that goes to us or how much of it's going to actual fraud. So how much does the growth of this administrative state, this ballooning number, actually play into as it feeds into waste, fraud, and also abuse?
Yeah, just the sheer size of the government is a problem. So the Federal Register has 441 federal agencies listed. We went through each of them, and we found that 75 of them were actually defunct. We reported this a while ago here. So you're left with 366 agencies, still way oversized. So not only is spending out of these agencies out of control, you have the largest ones, they use it or lose it spending, where at the end of the fiscal year, they go on a spending spree so they don't lose their unused portion of their budgets. Of course, this is wasteful spending, much of it, just to get the money out the door. The DOD is the worst culprit. They spent $79 billion in September of last year. Earmarks, which we have called and others have called the currency of corruption. This is pork given out to favored constituencies with no oversight. It is ripe for waste, fraud, and abuse. And it returned just a few years ago after being banned for 11 years because it was wasteful, fraudulent, and abusive. And during that 11 years it was gone, we estimate that the country saved $141 billion. Staff size and salaries have ballooned. The federal payroll has increased. And again, as the swamp gets bigger, it gets more secretive. They are now redacting many more names. Midway through the Obama administration, there were just 2,600 names redacted from civilian employees at federal agencies. Now it's 350,000. They're not even telling us who they're employing.
And you said the DOD is the biggest offender here?
That's right. Yeah, they go on a spending spree every year, and they spend a lot of money.
You know, before we leave you here, let's talk about this bill Joni Ernst is introducing that could address some of these gaps. First of all, tell us about it. Do you think this is a fix for this?
This could be very good, absolutely. It's called the Where's the Workforce Act, listed by duties in office. They're calling it the Where's WALDO Act. And in part, it's because we couldn't find where employees were stationed. So it would establish, this Where's Waldo Act would establish a public database that you could search with everything that you would want to know about the civilian employees. So we're not talking about DOD active duty, but we're talking about civilian agencies where we should know this act would give you the title of each position, the description of the duties, which agency they work for, where they're stationed, what they're paid, of course, total, base and total. And the duty station was a hot topic, primarily following the pandemic, because you had a lot of people working from home, of course. And when that emergency was lifted, people continued working in places around the country that they weren't stationed at, right? They moved around the country. So this would give us that information. And so we're able to compile a lot of this data, but not all of it. A lot of it's redacted. This would put this available to anyone who wants to search it.
Thank you so much. Rachel O'Brien, OpenTheBooks.com, Deputy Public Policy Editor. Thanks for joining us. Happy holidays.
Thanks for having me.